Hi, and welcome to my channel. It is the middle of the month, so it's time to do a mid-month check-in, everything that I've read up to now, and all the books I've acquired. We're combining these mid-month check-ins with book hauls just to break things up and keep me from having to do two videos, so I can just put them in one. If you've watched all my videos, some of the book haul things are not going to be new to you because they're the ones I got when I went on my book buying spree after I finished the first round of Book Quest TBR game. But if you haven't been here or if you've forgotten what I got there, then you'll be surprised. First of all, we're going to talk about the books that I finished. Okay, I know I'm wearing different clothes. I just have to jump in here and say no. This is not going to be a book haul and a mid-month review because I have too many books and I talked for too long to review the books. So this is just a review and the book haul will be coming later. So I thought the way that I would do this wrap up is that I would start shortest to longest books. So page length is what I am using to determine all of that this time, which means the first thing I finished was Saga, which is issue number 12, and it was only 32 pages. I gave this 4.5 stars. I loved it so much. I'm going to scoot a little bit further so that we can post the books, pop the books up right there. But I really enjoyed this one. I think this might be my favorite issue so far, and it's number 12. But there were just things in it that were sweet and at the same time like explained some things that I've been wondering about, or just some storylines also wrapped up. There was some emotional moments where people who maybe didn't like each other before have started to like each other. So anyway, it was so good. Leading me into the next graphic novel that I read, which was 36 pages, and that was Earthdivers number 11. This one, I think, also was one of my favorite ones. Now, the way the Earthdivers work is that what has happened is that a Native American group has discovered a cave that allows for time travel. And we're in the future and it's an apocalypse and people are dying and trying their best to survive. And they decide that they could go back and kill Columbus. And that would reset things in the present and make it a better place, right? So they send somebody back. What they don't know is that when you go back, how do you get back to the future, like back to your time? So there are some things that happen. We get the point of view of the person who goes back in time. We get the point of view of the people who stay there. You have to have something in your possession that belonged in that time when you step through, and then that's where you go. And so now in this second section or the next, so we've had some people who have gone all the way back to like prehistoric times. And now we've had people who have gone back to the beginning of America, 1776. So that's what this like arc of the storyline is. That's where it starts anyway. Somebody is going back there and trying to stop certain things that happened around signing the Declaration of Independence. So that's what's going on with Earthdivers. It's just great in general. It is like an unhinged what if. And I like it a lot. It's also Stephen Graham Jones, who is my favorite author, or one of my favorite authors. So it's up there at the top of my list that I enjoy. The next one is not on the top of my list. 224 pages, Rental House by Weike Wang. I did not like this book. I gave it 2.5 stars. I felt like this was, I didn't like the writing style. It was written in a weirdly past omniscient narrator that's like describing things that are happening and we're not in the characters. Like I did not get to feel the characters. And that's how I love to read a book. I'm very character oriented. This was very much a like, we're watching this family do this stuff. And it was not personal at all. And I just did not connect with it. I did not enjoy it, but I read it. It was one of my NPR books, which is so weird because usually I love the NPR books. Anyway, next longest was So Close, The Hand of Death. It was 287 pages, and it was a Taylor Jackson book, number 6 in that series. I read number 5 and 6 in that series recently, but I read number 5 last month. So this one I read, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that it was it did a great job of wrapping up a lot of the stuff that has been carrying over from the multiple novels before it. This is number 6, like I said, and there's been a killer/stalker in the background of a lot of these, and this wrapped it up kind of like we're done with that arc or that person that's after Taylor, and maybe we move into a new thing, because there are some more issues that we deal with Taylor and her fiance that have nothing to do with solving crimes, but kind of also have something to do with solving crimes. So I'm hoping that now that all of that is wrapped up, I'm ready to see what's happening in the next book. I'm excited. I think I only have 4 books left to finish out this series. So I'm excited to see what is coming up next. The next one, I gave that 4.5 stars, and I gave the next one 4.5 stars, The Mystery Guest. This is book 2 in the Molly the Maid series, and I immediately went and put book 3 as a pre-order. I cannot wait to get it. I am so excited. I forget every time how much I love Molly and her world when I leave it. So I am so excited to go back there. Molly is a maid in a hotel, and Molly was raised by her grandmother, and we get a little bit more background on that and what's going on with them or what happened with them. Her grandmother is no longer alive. She's not alive in the first book either. We immediately start with Molly telling us things that her grand says, and she's constantly remembering about her. And I just loved it so much. I thought it was so endearing, like exactly like the first book. And this time, though, Molly is a little more aware of herself. She's aware of the things around her, and she's become more of a mentor role at the hotel. And I just thoroughly enjoy these books, and I will definitely read every one of them that comes out. That actually means that I maybe just need to pick up more Nita Prose books. Did she write more than just the Maid series? I need to check that out. Okay, the next length is 330 pages, and that is Promises, Part 5, The Next Generation by A.E. Villa. That is so long. Let me tell you what happened. I read something on Audible. It was a couple of years ago at this point. I don't even remember. And I was recommended this book. I'll put it up here. And I thought, I'll try it, because a lot of times when I am not reading for the channel and I just want something mindless to listen to, I will just grab romance books that are usually part of the Audible Plus catalog that I can just listen to. It doesn't cost any money or whatever. And so that's what I do. So I just picked this one up. This was like my background book because it's 5 books in one in this mashup. And so I was like, okay, I'll just read this. Well, I got sucked into the world. It is Georgia police. They're not police, they're detectives, and they work with other people around the thing. Yes, the basic premise is that they are romance novels, but I got sucked into the world of these guys, and I have had such a good time until this last book, because so we moved from the detectives over to a bounty hunter group. And we've been following the bounty hunters for 4 books. And now this is the 5th book, and it's called The Next Generation. And what that just means is that the people who run the bounty hunting business are getting older, and they want new people to come in and take over. And that's what it means by the next gen. It's not like their children or whatever. Anyway, I have really enjoyed these as like purely an escape to just read something mindless that I don't have to focus on. They are all romances, which seems incredibly unrealistic to me. They're living in a weird part of Atlanta is all I have to say. But anyway, they all take place in Atlanta around the Georgia area, and it's detectives in one series and then bounty hunters in the other. This wraps up the bounty hunter series. And I was like, why am I not counting these books? Like, I'm reading these books. Why am I not counting them? So I threw them in here. I only gave it 3 stars. I did not love this one. It's actually my least favorite out of the whole like 18 books that I have read in this whole series. That's not 18. I don't know how many books there are, but this is definitely my least favorite. I didn't like the dynamics between the characters. I didn't like the way the characters acted. So anyway, I don't know that I would recommend that one, but if you like this kind of romance, check it out right here. At least you can try to read the first book. Then another romance, 336 pages, called Fakers with Benefits, Crimson Club. Y'all know anything that says fake dating, I'm at least going to give it a try. I ended up only giving it 3 stars, though. It wasn't fantastic. And I didn't read the first Crimson Club book because it's a stepbrother thing. And I don't know. I just was like, no, thank you. I don't know why I don't like that trope. That's not really a trope. I guess it kind of is a trope. Anyway, I don't like it. So I skipped the first book and I went to the second book. It's one of those series where you're not going to miss anything. We're just following different people who work at the Crimson Club, which is a pole dancing club. So anyway, this was also one that was recommended to me and I grabbed it. And I don't know, maybe I need to stop doing that because I only gave it 3 stars. It was not great. Then the next longest one, 343 pages, 4.5 stars, Breathless by Amy McCulloch. This was so good. If you heard me talk about this in the game that I was playing, the Book Quest game, then you already know how I feel about it, but I gave it 4.5 stars. It is so good. They're climbing a mountain called Manaslu, which is in Nepal. And it's one of like the top 8 or 10 tallest mountains in the world. And the author has actually climbed this mountain because I thought as I was going into it and reading it, this guy is trying to do this thing that he's calling Clean 14, and he's climbing the top 14 mountains, the highest 14 mountains in 1 year period. And I thought, why aren't we at Everest then? Because he had already done Everest when we started. And I was like, that's weird. Why are we starting with this mountain I have never heard of? So I had to go Google it. I did a little bit of Googling. It was actually fantastic to learn about a new mountain and a new part of the world that I just don't know a lot about because nobody's getting me on a mountain. Absolutely not. So anyway, the author has climbed Manaslu. And so of course she's going to write about Manaslu because that's the one she's done herself. So if you are a climber, you're going to love all the like technical things. Me, I just kind of zoned out in that part where she's like clip in and move forward and clip in. I didn't know what any of those things meant. Like, I mean, I've seen people climb and I understand that you have a carabiner that you're hooking into a thing, but I don't understand like all the ins and outs of how all of that works, and you don't need to. What happens is they're climbing Manaslu. She's been invited along on this last trip. She's never summited a mountain before because she's quit every time, and now she's climbing the top of Manaslu, the tallest mountain she's ever tried, and people start dying on the mountain in her group. So somebody is a killer on the mountain. So good. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was so close to being 5 stars. There was just some parts of it that I thought were a little too slow. Like I wanted them to move a little faster. The next longest, 352 pages, Revenge by Lexi Blake. This is part of the Lexi Blake world that I'm reading. And this one specifically is the last book in the Lawless family series. So there are 3 boys and 1 girl in the Lawless family, and they are connected into the overall thing that we've been reading about her just in the Lexi Blake world. So her world has, I don't know, 80 to 90 books at this point that are just somehow sort of connected to each other, but not really. Like you could totally read these as standalones as well. But I'm reading them all together in her catalog as part of my 50 Before 50 book. So I can't really tell you much about what happened, except this is the last one about one of the Lawlesses, and it was really good. I don't know what else to say. I gave it 4 stars. I thought that it did a really good job of wrapping up the Lawless situation. This was Drew Lawless in this one. He's the oldest sibling, and he's always felt responsible for his younger siblings because of what happened with their parents. We find out what happened with their parents. We find out what's going on with them, and everything gets wrapped up in this one, which I always like. And then I move on to another series, another series with Lexi Blake. I guess another mini series within the greater world, whatever, it's fine. Then the next book, 356 pages, Stephen King, From a Buick 8. This is a meandering tale about a car, and it's just a story about a car. So let's say you went to work at this police station, state trooper station. They're not called stations, but whatever. It's a state trooper place. And you show up for work and you're cleaning windows because they've told you that your job is to clean windows. And you clean a window and you look inside and you're like, oh my gosh, there is a brand new Buick in here. And so then you say something to your boss like, hey, whose Buick is that? And why is it parked in that shed? And what's up with that? And then 356 pages later, you know the story of the Buick in the garage. That's it. That's the book. So if that is something that interests you, feel free. This is the least scary Stephen King I have ever read. I did give it 3.5 stars because, oh my gosh, it was a story. I mean, it's still gory because it's Stephen King, but least scary Stephen King. Except at the very end. At the very end, he ramped up the tension. I was definitely tense and worried about what's going to happen because, he also does not have a problem killing main characters. So I was very concerned about what was going to happen with everybody. So for that little tiny bit, it was very suspenseful. The rest of the time, it was a story about a car. Okay, next, 370 pages, 4.5 stars, Ready Player 2. Y'all, I've been so worried about this book because I heard so many things about people not liking book 2. And I'm like, are you my age not liking book 2? Because this, again, was just like Ready Player 1, all nostalgia. I felt like I was just thrown right back into my childhood and teenage years, and I just loved it so much. I mean, y'all know how I feel about Lord of the Rings if you've been here for a minute. And there was a giant battle in this book that took place in Middle Earth and had to do with Lord of the Rings. And the whole time I was like, are you serious right now? And so I told my husband, I was like, listen, you probably want to read Ready Player 2 because a bunch of it takes place in Middle Earth. And I know how you love that. So maybe he'll read it. I don't know. But anyway, I read it and I loved it. 4.5 stars. That probably means that I need to check out some more Ernest Cline because so far I've read 2 of his and I liked it. Does he have more? Anyway, Nita Prose, Ernest Cline. I need to check out other books. Bringing me to another 4.5 stars. Y'all, see all this? See this? 380 pages. Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. One of you guys, one of my members recommended this book and it was so good. It flowed so well. I know that I like Tessa Bailey anyway, but this book felt effortless. Like picking it up, reading it, finding out what was going on. It all seemed just easy and fun, and I loved it so much. We have a family that owns a flipping business. So I feel like flipping houses are not as big as it used to be, like in the early 2000s, 90s to early 2000s. It was in the 2000s because I was married and I thought we should do that. Like we should flip a house. Y'all, I can't even hit a nail with a hammer consistently. And I was trying to talk about flipping a house. Anyway, you buy a house really cheaply that's run down and gross. You fix it up and you sell it for a lot of money. So that's what flipping a house is. And they have a business that does this. And it is a boy and 2 girls, brother and 2 sisters. And this series is about the 3 of them, I guess, finding love. No, the brother's already married. So I don't know who's in this series, but this is the first book in a series. The series is called Hot and Hammered. I think that's so funny. Anyway, our main character is a baseball player. Wow. He's a baseball player who got injured and now he had to come home. And he calls up his best friend who runs the flipping business. And he's like, hey, can I flip houses? And the guy who runs the company, his baby sister, has always had a crush on the baseball player. And she's like, you need to wake up and do your stuff and let's go and all the things. So she kind of motivates him to get up and get back to life because he thinks everything's done after baseball. But it's so much more than that. Like we find out so many things about him and his background and why he thinks about himself, how he thinks about himself. And we can see that even somebody who is incredibly successful and rich and good looking can negate all of that with their inner self-talk and the way they feel about themselves. And so the stuff that we see on the outside is definitely not what's happening on the inside. And I thought that it was so, so good. And I am definitely going to continue in this series. Not that I needed another series to start, but whatever. Hey, I've done very good. This whole first half of the month, I have only started 1 new series that has books behind it. I did start another series, but I'm all caught up because there's only 1 book. So there we go. Now, 416 pages, the one I just finished last night, Scythe and Sparrow, book 3 in the Ruinous Love trilogy. I gave this 4 stars. This was on the way to being 5 stars and my favorite of this trilogy until the end. Not the end. There's just something that happens past the 50% mark. And I'm going to say it's not anything physical that somebody does to somebody else. So I don't want y'all to think that's a thing that's happening. I mean, please read the trigger warnings for this whole series. This one seemed the most tame. Is that the word I'm going to use? The least unhinged, I guess, of the whole series. So if you've read books 1 and 2, book 3 is going to be a cakewalk for you. But book 3 to me had more depth and more character development and more personality in what was going on with the characters than the other 2. I was in love with all things about this book until Fionn did something. Fionn is our main character male. He's the youngest brother of the other 2, Lachlan and I forgot their names, but the other 2 brothers. Lachlan is in book 2. And I don't remember who's in book 1, but he's the Butcher and Blackbird. He's Butcher. Anyway, Fionn is the youngest brother, and this one is all about him. I really enjoyed who he was, getting to see the way his brain was working. I just feel like the thing that he did. So this is, if you've read the book, it's after they kiss, after he kisses her for the first time. And then he does something, and I feel like that is so out of character for him. Like, I feel like, why would he have done that? I just don't understand that is where his brain went. Like, I don't know why that's where his brain went. And it kind of affected things that happened for the whole rest of the book. And so it made me go like, ugh. And I gave it a 4-star instead of a 5. But oh my gosh, it was so on its way to being a 5. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I still really enjoyed it. I just was mad at Fionn for a little while. Okay, bringing me to the last book that I read and the only 5 stars that I have given this year, and that is to the Humane Society for Creatures and Cryptids by our very own QWERTY. If you have been here to see that I am doing the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, it was created by her, and this book is 567 pages. And 5 stars. I loved it. I felt like the pacing was so well done. Like, we constantly moved. We were constantly switching characters, but only 4 characters. We had the 3 sisters and 1 other person, and we moved between those characters through the whole book in a very consistent way. I felt like there was always something happening because there was always another person that we were reading about or in their head. But y'all, the last 40% of this book is non-stop action, and the tension that she built in this, oh my gosh. Okay. So great. So great. And this is technically the beginning of a series. I don't know when the next book is coming out. I don't even know if she started writing it. I am here to read it, is all I'm saying. And she does have other books. I even have some of her other books because I am a coffee member. I guess that's how you say it. And I made a donation a while back, and she asked what books we wanted. So I have some of her books as well, and ebooks that I am going to be reading. So I have 3 new authors just from the beginning of February. They're not new authors, but 3 authors just from the beginning of February that I'm going to go try to find other books from. I call this a win. Yes, I had a 2.5 star. And I had 2 3-stars and 2 3.5 stars, but everything else was 4, 4.5, and even a 5-star. I'm so pleased with it. Okay, and now I'm back with my different clothes on to say this is the end of it. I was still planning to do both of them when I finished that last review, and then editing me was like, no, this is not something we're doing. So I'm going to film the book haul separately, and you'll see that video coming up next. Let me know if you've read any of these or if you are adding any of them to your TBR now, and you can leave some kind of animal emoji since the Humane Society for Creatures and Cryptids was my favorite book so far that I have finished. So leave that below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.